Steph, Coby White, Tari Eason, Alperen Şengün, big games all over the NBA on Thursday. Michael Bolton's got it all for us, Mick.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and LubeMobile is your mobile mechanic. And I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Also, check out LockedOnDaily.com and get the best newsletter for your NBA team, your favorite NBA team, or maybe one that you hate, dropped into your inbox 5 days a week. Double bang this one on the audio, the video, do both. Comment, leave it, subscribe. There's so much stuff. So much stuff. We're here to look back at Thursday, a lighter day with 6 games on, so we'll get into it because it is National Tartar Sauce Day. I, as a kid, used to not like tartar sauce. You go to the pub and you order fish and chips. Oh, fish and chips, Mum. And then you go, and the sauce had come and they drop it on top of it. What is this? Get this off. Scrape it off. Yeah, I was pretty annoying. But now, as you get older, you get more mature. I'm a big fan of tartar sauce. I think it's an absolute banger with fish and chips. And I'm not sure what you guys think. But the thing here's the thing. Tartar sauce, fish and chips, fantastic on the fish, right? It's great to dip your chips into as well. When else do you use it? It's literally created just for like fish and chips, I feel like. When else would that be used? Anyway, we're celebrating it today, so maybe I'll go get some fish and chips. Let's get into some news, and there's quite a bit of stuff that just developed sort of out of nowhere for Friday. We know that teams are sort of moving into playoff preparation mode. They're moving into Cooper Flag preparation mode. So there's going to be random stuff going on. Thunder are arresting a lot of guys. No Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. No Bronco Williams. No, who's the other one? Isaiah Hartenstein. Chet Holmgren is a questionable tag. So they've got a lot of guys that are just not going to play. The Hong Kong mattress, Carson Wallace is out. Lou Dort is out. So they do not have many players. There might be streaming options appearing here for the Thunder with guys like Dylan Jones or Usman Jeng or old mate, high usage legend Adam Flagler or somebody like that, and of course Isaiah Joe and Pig Williams and Kenrich Williams. It's going to be, I'll be pretty surprised if Chet plays, but we will find out, and that's going to open up a bunch of different stuff. Malik Monk is out for the Kings. He's got this toe sprain that, of course, he was allowed to return and play through. Why wouldn't he be? He's out again. That's 2 in a row. They say he's day-to-day moving forward. Okay. With him out, we just keep rolling. Keon Ellis and Jake LaRavia gets a bump too. In Dallas, PJ Washington is out again, and unfortunately, after one game, Kai Jones. I guess this is the way to preserve some of his his 2-way contract days. Kai still has 11 left, but he is out on Friday. He joins Jaden Hardy and Olivier Maxence-Prosper, who has not been out in previous games, but we don't know about both Caleb Martin and Dante Exum. I think this means Brandon Williams will get some minutes. If Exum is out, Williams get to do more, but of course, these are big men that are out. So Dwight Powell, Kessler Edwards, who's got 8 games left, they're going to have to do a lot more there. The Golden State Warriors gave an update on the bucket, Johnny Kuminga. After we thought that he'd be back just straight after the All-Star break, we're still sitting and waiting, and Steve Kerr's like, yeah, I guess so, but not imminent. All right. So I guess they don't need to rush him. They're cooking. They're 10-1 since the deadline, I believe. And Buckets, Jesus Christ. That is not his nickname. That sounded so lame. Here he is, John Buckets Kuminga. Buckets Kuminga was able to score 25 points in the second half. He is just not someone that it's very hard to stash someone, obviously, at this time of year if you don't have the open IL slots. Is Kuminga good enough from an extended ankle injury absence then to stash and wait, and he comes back, he'll be limited, and we don't really know where the fit is? No, he's not. I think he's good enough to hold in IL, obviously, because if you've got that spot, why wouldn't you use it? But otherwise, I don't think it's going to be worth it. We've got some questionable tags in Portland on the Ides of March legend Jeremy Grant and on Denny Avdia. Avdia, I am very surprised. He hurt his quad on the 26th of February, missed the next game, came back, played 2 games, hurt his quad again. So just the same injury, aggravated. Well, I really do not think he plays, but if Grant and Avdia both play, what does that mean for Shaden Sharp, who's been getting 1 million minutes? It's going to be a tough one to figure out, I think, there. And then in Utah, they got a matchup against a bunch of nobodies in Toronto. So a lot of the usual guys are out. Markkanen, Collins, Clarkson, but Sexton and Kessler are playing. Are they just going to annoy us with sometimes it's everyone out, sometimes it's half of everybody out? Keontae George is questionable after he missed the last game. This team is going to be frustrating. I still think we're holding on to Filipowski, but don't be surprised if he plays 20 minutes here because Kessler's back. And then we just go, what do we do? That would be the worry. The other news there is the Raptors, who are on the other side of that Raptors-Jazz matchup. They've decided, cool, we're doing it too. They're on the first half of a back-to-back, and RJ Barrett is out. Jakob Poeltl is out. There's long-term injuries for Mobo and Abaji. Ingram is almost certainly not coming back. Grady Dick's out for a while. So we've got no Barrett and Poeltl, and I think that means Orlando Robinson's going to be a very interesting player. Jacoby Walter gets a bump there. Jamal Shed gets a bump. But then on Saturday, they play the Wizards. So I would expect that Barnes and Quickly don't play in that game on Saturday. So just be aware of that for the Toronto Raptors as we move forward. Let's take a look at some waiver wire trends. I think relatively briefly. I don't think there's a huge amount to take out of these waiver wire trends, but we'll just do it anyway. The most added player, Najee Marshall, followed by Spencer Dinwiddie. That makes sense. They're 12-team league guys, I think, for now. Kyle Filipowski, yep, I would add him. And the next one is Kai Jones, which again, if you added him, you've been dicked over. And there's literally no way you could have known that. Now, I had a level of skepticism around Jones because he couldn't play every game. He could play half the games. And I said, okay, I probably would try to add him and see what happens, but also be aware that you are going to run into this problem without having any idea that he would just be injured and miss the next two. Kai Jones is Kai Jones. He's not a very good player. There's still limits on what he can do. Do you need to hold him? It's going to depend again on your individual spot. Where are you? Are you in playoffs? Do you need the spot? If you do, then sure, drop. If you don't, hold. Jackson Hayes is worthy of a stream. And then Cason Wallace is one of the most added players because, of course, he is. And then, of course, he's not playing. So he's not good enough to hold through that. The most dropped players, I'm not including the alpha season guys like Suggs and Kyrie here. Bol. Honestly, Bradley Beal, I didn't think was going to be available to play. He's listed questionable. I'd be, again, incredibly shocked if he's just been like calf, out, calf, questionable, calf, out, calf, in, calf, out, calf, questionable, calf, out, calf, in, calf, out, calf, questionable, calf, out, calf, in. I didn't know that was going to sound as like much of a banger as it just did. But that's sort of where Beal's been going. So I just thought that he would be out. But he's not. He's available. Well, maybe he's questionable. But what do they do with Bol, who got 9 minutes last game? Does Budenholzer go back and start him again? Do we try Tyus Jones and Bradley Beal? Does Royce O'Neal start? I got no idea. I get dropping Bol makes sense. People dropped Rashawn Holmes. They should have. He was out last game. Jose Alvarado, understandable to have dropped him. They got 3 games in 4 nights that started today, so he would have been an interesting scoop. Hopefully people made that move. Same with Matkovic, who wasn't doing anything. Rightfully dropped. Add now. Cool. Ben Simmons out again. And Jeremy Sohan dropped because he didn't do anything in the last game. And all of that makes absolute complete sense. We're going to come back and talk about the games. But first of all, today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. With the basketball season heating up, getting towards the NBA playoffs, there's no better time or no better way to get in on the action than PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. It is easy to use. It is available in over 30 states, and it lets you mix and match projections across different sports. You can put these entries in under 60 seconds. You get payouts when you win in as little as 15 minutes as well. Plus, on certain promo days, like on Taco Tuesday, they offer specific discounts on player projections up to 25%, making more value in your lineup. So download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Okay, that will allow us now to get into talking about the games. The first one is the Chicago Bulls up against our Orlando Magic. And they lost the old Magic, but the Bulls win 125-123. Josh Giddey returned. That meant that Dalen Terry moved to the bench. Giddey played 39 minutes in his return. 19, 13, and 9. Now, the shooting numbers dropped. The block numbers have dropped since that really hot run, but he's still putting up these enormous counting stats, and that's great. And Coby White also, what a game from the big fella. 44 points with 7 threes and 2 steals. But I will say this. Do you want me to cut it down? I need to, just so, again, it's about where our expectations lie. He took 28 shots, double anybody else on the team, which is not that crazy. 35 usage is high. His usage is up since Levine has been gone. But what he's also doing is averaging 2.2 steals per game. And he had another 2 here. And I don't really believe that Coby is that guy. He shot 69 from 2 and 47 from 3. It was all in all a fantastic game. It does not mean that he's got anywhere close to the ability to do this as we move forward, but he is still going to be good on the whole, except White has a very checkered history in terms of hot streaks and then weeks-long cold streaks. And you just hope you don't get the run where he shoots 38% for the 3 weeks across the rest of the playoffs. You hope that doesn't happen. What is interesting is Tre Jones played 30 minutes. Now, there was no Vooch, who's probably back in the next game. There was no Lonzo Ball, and there was no Patrick Williams. And if they're all healthy, they're all going to be in the rotation. And I very, very highly, and you could, obviously, Vooch will start. Lonzo probably would start, and you could even make an argument that Williams might start somewhere. Probably not, hopefully not. So, Tre Jones played 30 minutes. He had 20 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. That's a really good game. I don't really trust that Tre Jones is a 20-point scorer. But if he's going to be a 30-minute-a-night guy, there is value in getting his assists as a stream guy, but I wouldn't overreact too much to it. We also got a pretty good Matas Buzelis game. Pretty good doesn't cut it for most of you. 11 and 5, 2 threes, 3 blocks. That's honestly a pretty good game. But again, all of these guys are going to return. And it's just going to squeeze a little bit off the top of that. For now, he remains an interesting guy. If you've got stash ability, you can do it. You can wait. But it's probably going to get worse for him in the short term versus better because those guys return and then some of the stuff that he does drops. I do not believe that Kevin Huerter needs to be rostered. He had 13 points in 25 minutes. While if you want to talk about the center spot, what a disaster. Zach Collins played 12 minutes. He started. Why? Fouled out. Bro. 3 points, missed his only shot, blocked a shot. And then Jalen Smith came in and we thought, okay, here's a chance for Sticks to do something. He played 26 minutes. Guess what? He fouled out as well and had 3 points. 3 and 9 with a block. And Vooch is likely back next game. So again, I don't know what they will do. Will they run 3 centers? Will Vooch start and Smith gets the backup run? Will Vooch start and Collins gets the backup run and Smith plays as the backup 4? I don't know. Something is going to happen a lot. And I don't know that Vooch returns on Saturday. He might. But if you say, hey, I need to do something here. I want to get a Friday, Saturday back-to-back stream in. I've got Zach Collins. I've got Jalen Smith. What do I do here? I think you're going to be, if you drop them, fine, go for it. Because again, it is possible that Collins goes from starting to 0 or starting to 17 minutes, which has actually been an improvement on what he did here. So if you needed to open up the slot, it's a risk. Because what if Vooch is out or aggravates it and then's out for the year or whatever? But we're at that stage now where you go, oh, he might be back. Do I clear the spot early if I'm just in desperate need to do something? And I think that it's probably a better than 50-50 proposition that it works out for you. On to the Orlando Magic side of this. This is, again, really disappointing to lose this game against the Bulls, who just cannot figure out what they want to do, Chicago. On to the Magic, Cole Anthony returned. Now, he only played 24 minutes, which is, so put that aside for a moment. But 20 points, 2 threes, 4 rebounds, steal and a block, amazing. 6 of 6 from the line, 50% shooting, all that is unbelievable. He has been very good. But he only played 24 minutes. And that's a problem. Now, he did have some foul trouble. You could look at him as a solid enough option to have on your 12-team roster. But again, like a lot of players, 1 more game for the week. Now, obviously, no one's got 3 more games for the week. They've got 2, but only 1 more for Cole. 24 minutes. It's a little borderline. It's a little risky to me. I don't mind it. I would look at it, absolutely, and I would consider adding him, but it's a little borderline. KCP had 19 points with 2 steals. I definitely wouldn't add him, and I wouldn't do it for Wendell Carter, even though 17-5, 2 steal and block is unbelievably good. And if this was December, and we saw Wendell Carter putting up a couple of really strong games like this, I'd go, yeah, grab him. Let's see what happens. These are good numbers. We use it. It's actually useful. But as you move towards the fantasy playoffs, or you're smack bang in the middle of it, getting that game today is great. I'd rather get some other games in from other players when I just don't trust what Carter can do. Because I look at this game, which is great. There is no denying this is great. But this is the mentality or the approach that I have for all of this stuff. That's great. But isn't that best case? And if best case is a line where I go, yeah, okay, pretty good. Then to me, then the worst case makes it very hard to just hold and lock in. Whereas if a player had that game, but I think that they've got 20 and 12 with 2 block upside, or even as a 17 and 10 regular performance, then I'd go, that's a good game, but there's actually more to come here. And that's the difference to me with those sort of players. If Wendell gave me this every game, I'd actually probably say we just hold that. But I don't think he does. I think that is best case. So if best case is mid, then holding through it is not always or is not going to be in the ideal. Because again, look at his last game. It wasn't very good. And again, you can get into this game and get excited by it. But what did he score last game? 2 points? That's sort of my point on that. Corey Joseph went from starter to DMPCD, and that meant that Mr. Black played 20 backup minutes. 8 points for him. He had 2 threes, he had 2 steals, he had a block. He is a defensive stat streamer for deeper leagues. Paolo had 20 and 9 with nothing much else, but 10 of 11 from the line from Banchero is excellent. And Franz Wagner, 18, 2 and 6, 2 steals and a block. Franz really hasn't got anywhere close to recapturing that form that he had without Paolo, and I think, he can't be definitive on this, but I think we feel pretty good about saying, yeah, he put those numbers up because Paolo was out. Not because he'd elevated, and he has improved, but not because he'd elevated to be this player, but because Paolo was out, he scaled up, he was great at it, Paolo is back, and he's pushed back to that mid-range guy versus a top 20-ish player, which is the sort of guy that he was early on in the season when Banchero was dealing with his ab issue. Second game, Philadelphia and Boston. So this is one of the problems with any sort of professional sport, really. Trying to figure out coach speak, organization speak with stuff. Because we heard Nick Nurse. We saw Paul George leave for a second groin issue. Nick Nurse, hey, how concerning? Oh, extremely concerning. And then Paul George was listed questionable. So I thought Paul George is out multiple weeks here. It's got to be multiple weeks. And then Paul George is listed questionable. Okay. Into that conundrum where it's not a paradox, but it's a conundrum. Where you're like, okay, I know what I saw. I know what I heard. I know what I think. But the organization is telling me something very different. So if I ignore what the organization tells me, and it turns out to be true, well, I feel very stupid. And you would feel stupid too. But again, he's not playing. I know he's not playing in this game, and I'm pretty sure Paul George is going to miss at least the next few. But I have no idea. If they just list him questionable in these games, I don't know how we do it. So, of course, he didn't play in this game. Justin Edwards returned. There was no Tyrese Maxey either. Edwards returned, and it was 14, 4, and 2 with 2 triples, and it took him 71% shooting to get there. And I think that is very instructive. Edwards has been very impressive for a two-way undrafted player, worked onto a full contract. Those numbers are good. And again, when we talk about Wendell Carter Jr. earlier on, and we look at those numbers, we go, well, okay, if this was early on in the season and we knew Paul George was out for the year and Edwards did this, I'd say, hey, let's grab him. Let's see where we go here. But he needed 71% shooting to get to even this, even though he played 31 minutes. And if you scan the list of names, like who out of these guys is just not going to play down the stretch that elevates even more for Edwards? And the answer is probably nobody. So while it looks good, and while the idea is, he's a replacement for George, maybe we stash and we hold and we see what happens, is the best case, which is probably slightly better than this, but it could also be worse, because if it wasn't 70% shooting and it was 40, you'd have like a 9, 4, and 2, and you go, that's absolutely useless, and it doesn't benefit me at all. So, no, I wouldn't add Justin Edwards in 10 or 12 or 14s, but we watch it very closely. Oubre had 27, 5, and 6 3 steals and 3 threes. In fairness to Edwards, it was the Celtics that they played, and they're very good. 123-105, Celtics win. Andre Drummond showed again that he is not that good anymore. He played 25 minutes. He had 9 points with 10 rebounds and 40% shooting. I don't know. Well, I sort of do know why he's starting, because Yabusele is starting at the 4. But Drummond is not very good anymore. He will have the occasional good game. The rebounds are nice. But you know the issues with him. You know the problems he's going to have. He's going to be a rebound guy who doesn't really do too much else. And every game, since Embiid officially ruled out and Drummond returned, he's played fewer minutes than Yabusele. Is 24 minutes of Andre Drummond enough to be a 12-team league guy? Very debatable. Very debatable. And the same goes with Yabusele, who has had like 80% of his minutes this season with Embiid injured and still not being good enough to be a regular 12. He had 4, 4, and 4 on 29% Yabusele. I just don't think that these guys are must-roster players at all. It's always easy to go, Embiid's out, we've got to grab the replacement. Who's the guy? Who's the grab? But a lot of times, the answer is no one. And I think that's sort of where it is here. Lonnie Walker, revenge game against a team he never played for. 28 minutes for Lonnie, 17 points with 5 threes, but this is Lonnie Walker. Nothing changes with this man. And he can catch fire, but look, what did we get here? 17 with 5 threes, 1 rebound, 3 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks, not a single free throw, shot 46 from the field. So he had 1 above average category, 5 threes. Everything else below average. Don't care about it. There'll be games where he has explosion games, absolutely. But no, we are not looking to add him. And then, after some unbelievable games, Quentin Grimes just fell off completely. 6 points on 18%. 8 rebounds, 5 assists. He still took 11 shots. That's just a horrid shooting night. But it balances out the 70%ers he's been having. Yeah, we still roster him. He's better than this, but he is going to be inconsistent. What we saw the game before was Jared Butler playing minutes over Jeff Doughton. Today it was Doughton over Butler. Doughton played 18 minutes. Now he's a two-way guy, so he's got game limits as well. I think he can only play half the games, Doughton. But he was solid enough, but it's probably not going to matter for most people, I'm guessing. Let's take a look at the other side of this, and that is the Boston Celtics. And honestly, I'm not sure we get to take much out of it because there was no Porzingis, there was no Jalen Brown, there was no Drew Holiday, there was no Al Horford, and there was no Sam Hauser. So who they start? Well, Neemias Queta, old mate Drew Peterson, Derek White, Jason Tatum, and Luke Cornett. Luke Cornett was one of my back-to-back stream guys. It worked out all right. 9, 7, and 4 with 4 blocks. I'll take that. Unfortunately, the other back-to-back stream guy that I looked at was Sam Hauser, and that didn't work. Neemias Queta didn't start the second half, though. That went to Torrey Craig. He had 8 and 9 with 2 blocks, which again, if you streamed it in for a single day, you're okay with it, and then you move on, while Tatum was excellent, 35 and 7, and Peyton Pritchard was good again. 19, 4 and 6, 2 steals, 4 threes, 32 minutes. But we're well aware of what is going on here. There was no Porzingis, no Brown, no Holiday, no Horford, no Hauser. Derek White got a tooth smacked out, so Pritchard had to do a lot more. And that's great. He did it. He's had 2 absolute monsters in a row with every condition catered towards him, and he's taken full advantage, and it's great. But always finding that level of production on a team that's fully intact, impossible. As for White, who was excellent last game, he had 12 points on 29%. He played 24 minutes. He didn't have a single defensive stat, and that's really a bit of a letdown, but it's all good that he's fine and he's ready to go with the tooth moving forward. It was impressive from Baylor Shireman. Just keep that in the back of your head. Because there will be one more of these games, 2 more of these games at some point through the season. Shireman played 30 minutes. He had 15 points with 3 rebounds and 3 threes. He's got a relatively fantasy-friendly game. It's going to be hard to do that regularly in the NBA. But he's a name to watch, and they gave him the opportunity. He looked pretty good doing it. And that's just, again, it's just a bit of information just to keep in your head, or I'll keep it in mine, and I'll let you know when we get more to it later on. We've got more games to talk about. Today's episode, though, it is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. When the game tips off, it's just the beginning of the NBA action because there's no better place to get in on that action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets all through the game. So even if you miss the opening tip and you want to bet on fourth quarter comebacks or a team that's winning and you want to get them to hold the lead, well, you can bet on the spreads and the totals and the money line and player props during the game. You can also combine the live bets into a same-game parlay to increase your payout potential. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just go to FanDuel.com to join today. That is FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. All right, the next game, the Golden State Warriors get the win in the end over the Nets, 121-119. The Warriors rolled out their same starting lineup. It did not stay intact for very long because Brandon Podziemski left the game very, very early, like a minute into the game, I think it was. Let me just double check that. How much did Podziemski? 44 seconds into the game with back soreness. Now, after the game, Steve Kerr did his very best to hold back. Basically, he said that it's not serious and he's day-to-day, but realistically, what he wanted to say is that we're going to label Brandon Podziemski questionable for the foreseeable future. He was very proud of Steve for not doing that, but what he said, he is day-to-day. Pods had been playing incredibly well. This is going to knock all of his per-game averages down, so when you're looking at Pods' stats last week, last 2 weeks, it's going to be really deflated because he had zeros in 44 seconds, and it's going to drop all those averages down, so just be aware of that. Guy Santos, Al Helper, started the second half. In place of Pods, he had 6 points in 24 minutes. But finally, we got a good Jimmy Butler game. We've been waiting a while. 24, 2 and 6 with 3 steals for Jim, 10 of 10 from the line. But am I burying the lead? Steph was ridiculous. 40 with 7 threes and 4 assists, 60%. And this is an absolute anomaly for Steph. Is he the anomaly? Is he the predicament? Those nicknames that are going around, man. What is happening? Anyway, Curry, 9 of 9 from the line. You don't get that from him very often, do you? Another guy that stepped up with Podziemski out was Gaz Payton, the doctor. He had 16 and 9 in 21 minutes. I don't think you'd want to feel good about relying upon Gary Payton to provide value. Quinton Post had 10 and 7 with 2 threes and 2 blocks. Honestly, that's a really good line. I don't really trust what Post does, and he was benefiting as well from the absence of Podziemski. But as a deeper league guy, he's got minutes until at least Kuminga returns. And the same goes for Moody, who was fine as a deeper league player, 10 and 5 with 2 threes. Buddy Hield though, bro, come on. I haven't jacked anybody off today. Maybe I should. I know how that sounds. I know. But Buddy, my guy, what's happening?
Get that garbage out of here!
I don't know how many times I've done that to Buddy Hield this season, but people are still holding him. He had 0 points in 23 minutes. He missed all 8 of his shots. He had no defensive stats. He had 1 rebound and 1 assist. Remember when he was like a top 20 player for a week or so into the season? Yeah, he's barely holding in the top 200, and you do not roster him. I don't even care if Podziemski's out. I don't care. He is a single game desperation stream for threes. I'm sure we'll get one more Buddy Hield cycle in this season where he has 2 games and he starts a game and he has 20 points with 6 threes or whatever, and then it will fall away because this is honestly just who he is. And I think we're all sort of coming to that realization at this point. Let's go to the Nets. And the Nets are a team that is complicated from a fantasy perspective. Keon Johnson started over Zaire Williams, which honestly I didn't expect that they were going to make that switch, although Zaire had seemingly fallen out of favor of late, but whatever, that happened. The problem with assessing the Nets is like they play 5 games next week. Nobody else in the league has a 5-game week the rest of the season. The Nets only have 1 more game this week. So there are plenty of players on this team where I go, yeah, like do not bother with Zaire Williams 10, 1 and 1 in 25 minutes. That's useless. But you do that 5 times during the week next week and it's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. Keon Johnson started. He played 24 minutes as well, which again, not good enough. 12, 1 and 2 with a steal. 71% shooting to get there. Bad. Not good. That's not good. But 5 games, do I hold? What about Day'Ron Sharpe? I'll tell you what we can do about Day'Ron Sharpe. Just get any thought out of your head that they're just going to bench Claxton and start Sharpe. It's not happening. It was never happening after that 1 game. It's not happening. Sharpe, who I do like a lot and can be a starting NBA center, has been terrible the last 2 games. 2 and 5, 1 steal and 2 blocks. You got the 2 blocks still. But again, do I bother holding him? What if we get 90 minutes out of 1 roster slot? Is that worth it? I'm not sure that it is. Because next week, there's a non-streamable day on Monday. And that's the other thing. You know what? Scrap their 5-game week stuff with the Nets. One of their games is on Monday. There are 12 games on. You would not start Keon Johnson. You would not start Zaire Williams. You would not start Day'Ron Sharpe. You would not start Tyrese Martin. You wouldn't start these guys. So you know what? They don't have a 5-game week. They've got a 4-game week. Jack, warm up the larynx.
Get that garbage out of here.
Because again, 5-game week is great. You won't play them. They'll play 4. And 4 games, when I could turn that roster spot into 6 games, doesn't cut it. Now, we stream Day'Ron if something weird happens. Johnson can have value in certain little bits and pieces. And of course, in a 5-game week, there's only one way to have a 5-game week. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So they're going to have 3 games in 4 nights to end the week, plus a weekend back-to-back, which is useful. But they don't have 5 games. For the majority of us, 5 games only matters for Claxton, Johnson, Thomas. Russell probably. And even then, Cam Thomas probably plays 3 games. D'Angelo Russell plays 3 or 4. Cam Johnson plays probably 4. So they're not even 5-game players. The only guy who I think has got a shot of those good players of being a 5-game guy is Nick Claxton. And even then, I'm not sure he does. So we're in the spot where we look at the schedule at the start of the year in playoffs. We go 5-game, yeah. And not that many people did that with the Nets because we thought they'd be terrible, obviously. But when you get to a 5-game week, how many of the players play the 5? I remember the Raptors or the Rockets had it a year or 2 ago, and when you got there, nobody played those games anyway. Like they played 4 of them, and it was just like a normal week. And I think we might end up running into that problem. So your Keons and Sharps and Williams and even a Trendon Watford, who some people added after a big game last time out, it's just not happening. There's just too many situations here. Noah Clowney might also be back next week as well. So while we might have hyped this, and this is incorrect on me because I've talked about it a little bit. Oh, there's a 5-game, maybe hold. But I didn't even click that one of them's on a bloody 12-game Monday. So it's not even going to count. Like, you're not even going to use them. And that means that the value is not there. So if you wanted to move off of a fringe Zaire, Keon, Sharp sort of a player, I don't think that 5-game conundrum's there for you. I don't think it's that much of a worry, honestly. I don't think it's a problem. Next game, Indiana, Atlanta. The Hawks win 124-118. Out of nowhere, there was no Tyrese Halliburton. I did not see anything to suggest this would happen. He was dealing with a hip flexor strain, so that was a little bit weird. Ben Mathurin was also still out with the wrist. So we saw the things that we thought we'd see. And if you were still in a trading situation, I'd be telling you, man, look at what Aaron Nesmith is doing. It is a sell-high moment. Nesmith played 35 minutes. He had 21 points on 53%. He had 4 threes, 1 steal, 2 blocks. He is rolling. But of course, Halliburton out, Mathurin out, minutes up, usage up. All of it works in his favor. Same with Nembhard, who didn't play all that well, but he still had 15 with 10 assists in 39 minutes. No, not 39 minutes. Sorry, 30 minutes, 39% shooting. That's all great. But if Halliburton and Mathurin are playing, they're not doing this. They're still totally okay to have on your roster, but I still believe they are stream-level players. Siakam had 35 and 9 with 3 threes, and he'd been bad for a while, so it's good to get a nice bounce back. And Turner also was strong. Not awesome, but strong. 17 and 9 with 2 blocks. We usually get a nice little spike from McConnell if Halliburton's out, and we got it. 9, 4, and 6 with 2 steals. You couldn't have asked for any more from TJ. Maybe you'd hope that he would have shot better than 40%, but overall, pretty good. And that's a 1-game thing, and you see what happens with Hallie next game, and then you move on, and that's it. Jarris Walker was the surprise starter, though. I thought they'd go with Ben Shepherd, but they put Jarris out there. He was working as a secondary ball handler. He had 8 and 7 in 25 minutes, and where he goes from here in his career, I don't really get it. I don't know. He hasn't done anything to impress really at all. His role on this team is very clouded, and I still think there's something there, but he hasn't done anything to sort of push through. So it is going to be an intriguing sort of next year or so to see where he is in his career. On the Hawks, they were able to go in with the same starting lineup. That meant that Muhammad the Night Watchman Wayu Gay started again. And Gay played 23 minutes, which is better than the 14 minutes he was playing before. So have we got a change of philosophy? Maybe. Does that mean that you've got to run to add Gay? I don't think so. But 3 steals and a block is nothing to sneeze at. So if you're in a deeper league, 23 minutes of Gay, which, title of my sex tape, that's useful enough in deeper leagues. But otherwise, I don't think we worry about it. What we also got was an absolute offensive explosion from George Niang. The minivan had 24 and 6 with 4 threes, 24 points in 24 minutes on 67%. He has been pretty good through most of his time in Atlanta, but still, this is a great game. Immediately, you just go, all right, 67%, not real, not going to shoot at that level. He's going to have plenty of opportunities. He's always going to be the guy, hey, we're looking for points and threes with a smattering of rebounds. How about Niang? And that probably works. Is it a must? No. Onyeka Okongwu, for all of the shit that I have got or others have got talking about, hey, Okongwu is probably going to be a good fantasy player if given the opportunity. It's good to see that it actually works and it actually did play out because bro is putting up top 50-ish numbers as a starter. 20 and 13, steal, block, elite field goal, elite free throw. An absolutely ridiculously good game. And his draft position for next year is going to be incredibly entertaining. I wonder what it is. Obviously, stuff can happen in the offseason, but we have seen that it works, and we have seen that he's good at it. And the waiting, it may have drove me mad, but it also sort of paid off. It paid off from a mental perspective, where you sit there and go, huh, am I wrong, or is it it's the children who are wrong? And you sit there and go, Jesus, really? Really? He's never going to do it? And then he did it. And they finally did it, and we're here. Now, of course, I didn't hold through any of this, because why would you? But now he's there, and I like it. Trae Young, 22 with 16 assists. You love that. While Dicey Daniels had 17, 4, and 5, the dustbuster. I don't know how many times I've said this. Now, we talk about Karis LeVert. You know what's happening. You know what I'm going to say. We talk about Dracaris, right? And we talk about the fact that he'd been playing so well. But every time I said it, and I say it for a reason, but every time I said it, I go, yep, he's going to have a game where he shoots 17%, he goes 8, 1, and 1, misses his free throws, and looks absolutely dreadful. Yeah? He had 8, 2, and 4 with no threes on 36% and missed both his free throws. Of course he did. What's the phrase? A leopard never changes his spots. There's a risk that he does this 3 in a row now. He could also have 30 points on 4 shots in the next game. This is LeVert. The thing that you look at is he's still got 27 minutes. He's around a 27 to 29 minute a night player. You know if you've got Karis LeVert that you are going to cop these ones. You're going to cop the big ones as well, but you're going to cop these ones too. And you have to know that. When they come, it's literally anybody's guess. You got no idea. But it is always going to happen. Terrence Mann had 12 with nothing else. He has been shooting the ball well in Atlanta, but overall, it's just not worth it in a 12. And it's not worth it for Zachary Ricochet. 11, 4, and 2 with 3 threes again on the surface. It's building. It's something. It's a little bit there, right? And if you were talking about streams with a 3 and 4 nights, you would consider that. Absolutely, you would. But as a lock-in, he's my best 10 guys. He's going to start. No way. The minutes are still not high enough. 25 minutes. He'll have another game this season where I assure you will hit like 30 points on 85% shooting with 5 steals. And people will go, yep. And then it will fall off again. I've yet to see any indication of consistency coming from Ricochet yet, which is disappointing. But like he's still learning. He's still putting up numbers. Just for us, from a fantasy perspective, it's really not quite there, is it? Next game, Houston in New Orleans. All right. The Rockets win at 109-97, and Ime Udoka's, he's just sort of teasing us a little, isn't he? Because we're in these spots with this team where, like, what do we make of it? Because they're just switching and moving Jabari Smith or Tari Eason and Tari Eason and Jabari Smith today. It was Eason. Last game, it was Smith. I don't know. How do I predict that? Eason played 31 minutes. 20 points, 4 assists, 5 steals, 1 block, 4 threes, a ridiculously good game. In these minutes, and with Fred VanVleet out, it helps a lot. He is putting up great numbers. He's a must-roster guy, but I think he played 25 minutes last game, and Jabari played 37. In this game, Smith played 28, and honestly, it was one of his better games. 16 points with 5 rebounds. Jabari Smith is unbelievably over-rostered at this point. Unbelievably.
Get that garbage out of here.
93% on Basketball Monster. Huh? Nah, you drop him. Reed Shepherd had 2 points. People added him. You don't need to do that. Well, Dylan Brooks had 14 in 36 minutes. And Amen Thompson, another 38 minutes. Amen, a great field goal percentage night. Bad from the line. 21-11 with a block. His ability to just do anything. He can play center. He plays power forward. He plays small forward. He's now playing point guard. He is putting up numbers in so many different positions. We've seen a bit of a dip, but overall he's been great. I love Amen. Where he goes next season is going to be also incredibly interesting, but while VanVleet is out, everything stays really high. And Şengün dropped to 22, 6, 8, 3 steal in a block game. He's had a couple of big ones in a row here. 6 assists out of Steven Adams is a little fluky. I wouldn't get excited about that. We don't even know if he's going to play every night, but yeah, it happened. On the other side of the equation, let's talk about the New Orleans Pelicans, who were able to go into this one with an unchanged lineup, but don't hold your breath because the next game for them is Saturday and then Sunday. So it's a back-to-back. And there are 4 rest candidates for them. McCollum, Zion, Olynyk, and Brown. How they mix and match those, I've got no idea. It's been a little bit lean for Kenneth Murphy of late, but he had 26 in 39 minutes with 2 blocks. He has been just ridiculous. Remember, he missed the start of the season with an injury. And he has absolutely cooked. I was talking with my son Ben about the Pelicans, who's sort of a casual Pelicans fan. And we're just talking about how this team fits together and how there's no DeJounte for them next season. And what would they do, say, if they got Cooper Flag? How would their lineup look? So Flag and Zion and Murphy, Jones, and CJ, I guess. Like, who's the center? Flag? Kenny? I don't know. Well, the worst player there is CJ. Okay, then who's the point guard? Zion? Still going to be a weird team, man. It's still going to be a weird team. Zion played 32 minutes, which is the first time he's hit over 30 minutes in quite a while. He is putting together, I know this is not a good shooting night, but somehow he then went 10 of 12 from the line, which, thanks, Zion. Love when you do that. Love more of it. This is a run from him, which we've never seen before. He is playing the best basketball ever. Not ever. People have played better levels, but for him, 20 and 10, 1 steal, 2 blocks. This has been, outside of him getting injured 3 games in and missing 2 months with a hamstring injury, I feel like I'm getting sucked back in. I won't, because I know he's had 3 lengthy hamstring injuries, which are an absolute bastard to be able to get over that long term. But the way that he is playing, if I didn't have the hamstring injury concern, he's an easy, round 2 to round 3 fantasy guy. Easy. But I won't do it because the hamstring is a 3 injuries, same tendon. I'm worried. Jose Alvarado, only 23 minutes. Now, the line looks fine because he had 4 steals. That is what he is. But 7, 2, and 4, and 23 minutes is not good enough. But adding for the 3 games in 4 nights makes sense. So you don't drop because you added for the bulk. Kelly Olynyk was probably his worst game as a starter, and the minutes were down. 23 minutes, 8, 4, and 2 with a block. Now, the conundrum here is that he doesn't have 2 more games left. He's probably got 1. I think you do hold, though. But he's only got 1 game left. Brucey Brown, yeah, you don't hold him. 0 points with 2 steals, while McCollum, yeah, bro, this guy. We are honestly at the stage with CJ here where, he's barely a top 100 player for the season. He's outside the top 140 over the last 2 weeks. He had 13, 2, and 2 in 34 minutes. Hold for the weekend, I guess, but again, he probably plays 1 game. Yves Missi will play 2, and that'd be the only reason you'd hold him. He had 10-4 with 0 blocks. But again, his production's bad. It's not good enough. He's not a hold for 12s. He's a stream for 12s. He's not a hold for 12s. He's a hold in 14s. Well, Geordie Hawkins, again, continues to be very disappointing. But like so many of you, you'll look at him over the weekend. There'll be elevated minutes opportunities. He might play 55 minutes across Saturday, Sunday. He might get 1 game that's good, 1 game that's bad, but still get you 35 points with 7 threes combined. And that's bloody good for 1 ad. So while we don't like the individual production, it's all about grouping it together. You should also be encouraged by what Carlo Makovic did. He only played 21 minutes and he shot 22%. Those 2 things are bad. But 6 and 6 with 3 assists, 1 steal, and 2 blocks is bloody good. And he is going to have, I would think, 1 30-plus minute game coming on the weekend. You could argue he might have 2, but the last time they had a back-to-back, he started 1, the other one he didn't. Didn't really make sense, but that's what they did. So just keep an eye on Carlo Makovic as an interesting weekend stream, but not someone we're going to really lean into long-term. All right, so let's go to the final game of the day. Absolute cracker of a game. Lakers, Knicks. The Lakers get the win, 113-109. They were down. A huge fourth quarter comeback fueled by Gabe Vincent. Into overtime, Luka takes over, and unfortunately, that's not the story of the game because Jalen Brunson hurt his ankle with about 1:20 left. He got up, he took the free throws, he went to the locker room, he never returned. It looked terrible. It looked really bad. He was grabbing high up on his leg as well. So the risk of the high ankle sprain is there. His leg basically, it was sort of an inward ankle sprain. So it went inwards, it hit the ground. It looks shocking. There's no way he plays tomorrow. The next game after that is Monday. The worry you have there is a significant grade 2, grade 3, 6-week injury. That's the worry. I have no idea. We'll find out. It looked dreadful. He could barely move on it. He did take the free throws. Yeah, I'd be very concerned with that. So just to get it out of the way immediately here, I would guess they start Deuce McBride. They have given campaign opportunities before. Even if Payne starts, I'd expect McBride to jump up, and he would be my priority ad. In fact, that's the priority ad of the day. It's just Deuce McBride. Behind that, we get to campaign as like a 14-team league guy. I have no idea. Maybe Brunson is miraculously fine. It's possible. He's dealt with a foot injury, ankle injury all season. I don't even know if it's the same foot, but he's had multiple foot injuries all year. That one just looked terrible, and there is zero shot that he plays tomorrow. None. It's just not happening. If he does, I don't know what I'll do. Something. Probably nothing. But, yeah. Karl-Anthony Towns was back. He returned from the personal leave, 42 minutes, 12 and 14. Obviously, he was not very good in this game, but the main thing is that he's back. While Mitchie Robinson played 13 backup minutes. Please stop holding on to Mitch Robinson. He won't play tomorrow. Achua was out in this one. Achua will come back, I'm guessing, and be the backup tomorrow. Brunson was great before the injury, 39, 4 and 10, but you got those numbers at least. We just don't know where we go from here. And then OG Anunoby, who was questionable heading into the game, played 20 minutes. Of course he did. No, he didn't. I didn't. He actually played 44 minutes. He had 20 points. He didn't do really much else, and he shot horribly, but he was there, while Mikal Bridges had 3 steals, and that's probably the only good thing I could say about his performance. Deuce McBride, again, we could look at it and go 0, 5, and 2. That's crap, clearly. Steal on a block, that's nice, and he went 0 of 6. It doesn't matter. He just has to be added. You add him over campaign. You add him in all leagues from Deuce McBride. Payne is a deeper league one. But just be aware that it is possible that we do get Tom Thibodeau chucking campaign into the starting lineup. But I still believe it will be McBride who gets the bulk of the playing time. On to the Lakers side of things. Luka, man. 32, 7 and 12 with 4 steals in 43 minutes. Only 39% shooting. He can still get better from here. Elite from the line. Imagine trading him away. Imagine trading him away to win now. And then the 2 win now players you've got, who are way worse than Luka, by the way, both are injured, probably out for the season. You could even make that up. Oh, we want to win now, so we'll trade away the player that helps us win now more. But he also helps us win more in the future. Some of the dumbest, anyway, Luka, awesome. LeBron, this man is 40 years old. What is happening? 44 minutes, 31, 12, and 8 with a block. Again, ridiculous. And we had 33 minutes from Jackson Hayes. He had 2 blocks. He had 8 rebounds. He had 5 assists. That's solid enough. It's absolutely not a must, and everyone's got to make sure they scour the wire to check if Hayes is there. But for certain teams, it makes sense to use him. The best thing I can say about Austin Reeves is that he played. He came back, and that's great. So we're not talking about a long-term calf issue, but he had 8 points on 15%. 15. He didn't have a single assist, steal, or block. That is an absolutely putrid game, obviously. But he is back, and that is the most important thing there. Dalton Connect was still serviceable enough. 11 points with 3 threes with Hachimura out. He's a deeper threes streamer, while Gabe Vincent went crazy. I think he hit 3 threes in a row in the fourth quarter. Ended with 4 threes, 12 points. Obviously, we're not doing too much with that. Just another name to keep an eye on, Trey Jemison, who's a 2-way guy. They will probably be able to convert him at some point, and I think he ends up making the full roster as they waive someone like Cam Reddish or even like a Markieff Morris, and he will be possibly their backup center through the playoffs. So just keep an eye on Trey Jemison. Let's go through lines of the night now to wrap this show up. The monstrous line of the night, it does come from that final game. It's the man who used to play for Dallas. It's Luka Doncic, 32, 7, and 12. I know it says 6. He got a rebound a bit, 1 second left. I'd pre-prepared it. 4 steals for him. Your waiver wire line of the night, the best performance, under 30% rostered. We're going with George Niang, 24 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. He hit 4 triples. Your young gun of the night, who is the best first or second year performer, it's Amen Thompson, like it is every second or third day. 21 and 11 with a block for Amen. And the dud of the night, Austin Reeves was really, really close. It was really close, but we're going to go with Zach Collins, who played 12 minutes. He fouled out. He had, 3 points with 2 rebounds and a block for Big Zach. And then we'll see what happens to him when Vooch returns on Saturday. And I won't be returning, well, I will be. I'll be here tomorrow with a preview show for Saturday. I was trying to do a smooth transition, but it didn't work. That's okay. I'm ready to fire up for National Tartare Sauce Day. I want you guys to hit a thumb on the video, to give it a double bang, to like, to hope, to look at your rosters, go see if Deuce McBride is available, and go and add him and check out all of the other stuff that you need to do. Keep things positive, keep things rolling, keep things good, and just avoid cereal at all costs. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.